హే ఇప్పుడు వస్తుంది.
Yeah, it is working now.
చెక్ హే
Hello.
చెక్ 1 హే టెస్ట్ దీని ఆడియో ఆన్ పెట్టు. అక్కడ నుంచి వచ్చేది.
వస్తుంది.
ఓకే నేను మ్యూజిక్ ప్లే చేస్తున్నా చూడు.
ఓకే ప్లే చేయి. వీడియో కూడా ఓపెన్ చేయి. హలో
చెక్ హే ఆన్ పెట్టది ఫుల్ చేయి. బషీరేనా
వస్తుంది. వీడియో ఆన్ చేయి కదా.
వీడియో ఇంకా కెమెరామెన్ రాలే.
అవునా ఓకే. ఆడియో వస్తుంది.
వాల్యూమ్ పెట్టింది. మాట్లాడండి ఒకసారి. బషీరేనా ఫుల్ 95 పీక్ అవుతుంది మళ్ళా. బషీరానా స్ట్రీమింగ్ నీ దగ్గర నుంచి చేస్తున్నావా? ఇప్పుడు ఈ సిస్టమ్ దగ్గర ఎవరు ఉంటారు? ఉండని ఏమన్నా వస్తే మళ్ళీ స్కాన్ చేస్తావా? దానికేమవుతుంది? నీ వాట్సాప్ అదే ఉంది. గ్రూప్ లో ఉన్న నెంబర్ వేసిన ఉండని. అయిపోయినాక డిలీట్ చేసేస్తాం, అయిపోతుంది.
అప్పటిదాకా వద్దా వేరే నెంబర్ ఇస్తే దాంతో ఓపెన్ చేస్తా.
అన్ని సెట్ అయినాక మళ్ళా ఉంటే ఏమైతే
పర్సనల్ ఉంటే
ఇప్పుడు ఎవరైతే యూజర్స్ ఉన్నా దాని తర్వాత గ్రూప్ ఎగ్జిట్ అయిపోతుంది. మర్చిపోతే ఎవరు మన ఎవరుంటారు? నువ్వా ప్రజెంటేషన్ షేర్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఏ ప్రజెంటేషన్ అవుతుందో జూమ్ నుంచే షేర్ చేయి. అవి ఏ పూరా ప్రజెంటేషన్ తెలుగు వస్తుందా? ఫస్ట్ ఇది ఓపెన్ చేసి పెట్టేసి డైరెక్ట్ షేర్ స్క్రీన్ కొట్టేసి మిగతా ప్రజెంటేషన్ క్లోజ్ చేసుకో. ఏది స్ట్రీమ్ చేయాలని ఇది కొట్టేసి స్టార్ట్ షేరింగ్. ఓకేనా? షేరింగ్ అయిపోతుంది ఆటోమేటిక్. స్టాప్ షేరింగ్ కొట్టేసి డైరెక్ట్ ఇది వచ్చేస్తుంది. కన్ఫ్యూజ్ గా ఏమైనా ఉంటే కాల్ చేయి. నువ్వు ఫస్ట్ అన్ని ప్రజెంటేషన్ ఏదైతే కావాలో అది ఓపెన్ చేసుకో. ఓపెన్ చేసి పెట్టినాక జూమ్లోకి వెళ్ళిపోయి షేర్ స్క్రీన్ ప్రజెంటేషన్ మీద క్లిక్ చేసి షేర్.
ఫోటో పెట్టుకున్నాం.
ఓకేనా? అంతే. అందుకే నువ్వు మల్టిపుల్ గా 3-4 ప్రజెంటేషన్ ఓపెన్ చేసిన కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అయిపోతావు. ఏదైతే ఓపెన్ అయితే అదే షేర్ లో వచ్చేస్తుంది. వస్తుంది అది రాదు. ఏం ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ అంటున్నావు? లేదు ఇప్పుడు నువ్వు చేంజ్ చేసిన అనుకో ఇమేజెస్ మిస్ మ్యాచ్ వస్తాయి. 4:3 రేషియో చేంజ్ చేసిన అనుకో ఇమేజెస్ మిస్ మ్యాచ్ అవుతాయి. ఈ ఇమేజ్ ఈడుందా, ఈ అలైన్ డిసలైన్ వెళ్ళిపోతాయి. కొన్ని ఉంటాయి, కొన్ని కొన్ని డిసలైన్ అవుతాయి. చేంజెస్ నీకు తర్వాత ముంగట స్లైడ్స్ కొన్ని చేంజెస్ అయిపోతాయి. ఇమేజ్ ఉంటే ఏం కాదు. ఇమేజ్ కాకుండా పీపీటీ డిజైన్ చేసి అలైన్ చేశారు అనుకో, అలైన్మెంట్ మొత్తం పోతుంది. ఇది స్ట్రీమ్ బషీర్ అన్న చేస్తుండ, ఆయన ల్యాప్టాప్ అడ్మిన్ ఆయన ఉండ. నెంబర్ తీసుకో, లేకపోతే అన్నకి పైన నాకు కాల్ చేస్తాను.
नो सर, अभी नहीं हुआ ना सर, अभी टाइम वो अपने लोग
हाँ जी हाँ जी
क्या हो गया?
नहीं ये तो कल छड़ी है ना कल नहीं आवा
अच्छा
आज आई है
चलेगा ऐसा
हैं हाँ हूँ चल गया
ये वाला उस दिन होता ना बीएस में पीछे
हाँ मैं जोड़ा जड़ा था भी थे कल नहीं चले आज चले
तो ठीक चलेगा
हाँ हाँ ये भी एक दिन छड़ी है ना परसों फिर एक की है साड़ी ना एक कैप्स लॉक
हाँ।
कई बार अपने आप ही हुई जाए ये कैप्स लॉक नहीं शिफ्ट वाली ना दो ही रह गई है अच्छा एक मीटिंग है साड़ी ये ना एक मीटिंग क्या न्यू टेस्ट है
अच्छा
इस टाइम 100 ना
आदि बात है जो नहीं आदि इसी का ना
डॉक्टर जोगिंदर सिंह नमस्कार।
नमस्कार राय साहब, कैसे हो?
नमस्कार नमस्कार, गुड मॉर्निंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू सर।
अरे भागीरथ जी।
कैसे हैं जी?
बढ़िया।
नमस्ते सर।
नमस्ते नमस्ते, राज साहब कैसे हैं? बढ़िया है।
सब बढ़िया सर, अपना बताइए।
और बस बढ़िया बढ़िया। पीकेपी जी नमस्कार।
सर नमस्कार, गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग
सर
सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग डॉक्टर पीके, नमस्कार सभी को, गुड मॉर्निंग
नमस्कार
सर।
सर, नमस्कार।
नमस्कार सर।
और सब बाकी बढ़िया है?
सब बढ़िया, ये अच्छा है मेथड, कम से कम मिल तो लें।
नहीं 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 नहीं, बहुत 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 बढ़िया है जी। इससे कम से कम आराम से शकल वकल देख लो सबके विचार। और कैसी ठंड कैसी है कश्मीर में?
बहुत ज्यादा ठंड है सर।
हाँ बहुत ज्यादा। अभी तो खैर वो तो जोशीमठ में क्या बर्फबारी चल रही है, बड़ा ठंड चाहिए। और क्रॉप अच्छी सर राय साहब?
डॉक्टर साहब, ये सैटेलाइट कॉन्फ्रेंस का क्या है? किस चीज के, मतलब क्या टॉपिक था इसका? म्यूट हो गए।
आज क्या, एक मस्टर्ड का है वैसे। इसमें क्या सभी क्रॉप्स का है, सोयाबीन है, ग्राउंडनट है, मस्टर्ड है। तो आज क्या है कि मस्टर्ड का है। तो आज क्या है कि मस्टर्ड के सभी शाखियों से पार्टिसिपेशन है। और आज मस्टर्ड का डे है स्पेशली,
ठीक है।
इसीलिए जोड़ा सभी।
ये वहाँ हैदराबाद जो हो रही है वही है?
हाँ 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 हाँ, वही है। और बढ़िया सर, वैसे क्रॉप अच्छी है।
अभी तो बढ़िया है सब कुछ।
चलो बढ़िया है।
क्योंकि
कोल्ड कोल्ड का असर तो नहीं है ना?
ना, इतना तो ज्यादा इफेक्ट नहीं है।
फ्रोस्ट 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 का नहीं है? फ्रोस्ट
फ्रॉस्ट का भी
फ्रोस्ट।
कोई असर ज्यादा हुआ नहीं हमारे इसमें, क्योंकि हमने पहले ही पानी दे दिया था उसमें, जस्ट जब स्टार्ट हुआ था तो
हाँ हाँ
खास
हाँ,
हुआ
हाँ।
नहीं।
आज वैसे काफी काफी टेम्परेचर लो है राजस्थान में, शीतलहर है।
अरे डॉक्टर साहब, ये सब वहाँ टेस्टेड हुई है, उसमें जो -5 पहुंच जाता है, ज्यादा फर्क
हाँ
पड़ता नहीं है इस पे।
हाँ 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 हाँ।
वो जो सेंसिटिव वगैरह थी वो तो होती ही है खराब, लेकिन
सही सही
ज्यादा
सही।
जैसे वहाँ वो जो फतेहपुर शेखावाटी वाला इलाका है ना, वहाँ तो -5 में पहुंच जाता है।
हाँ 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 हाँ,
वहाँ पे लगा रखी थी तो इनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
बिल्कुल 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 बिल्कुल।
Symposium conference, which is the part of this international conference on vegetable oil, ICVO 2023. In fact, rapeseed mustard group of crop is very, very important as far as edible oilseed is concerned in the country. And this satellite conference, this important session on rapeseed mustard will be chaired by none other than Professor Arvind Kumar, the former Vice Chancellor RLBCU Jhansi, and he has been the Deputy Director General in ICR also. And moreover, he was the leader of this program, rapeseed mustard program, for many years, and he was the director of the Directorate of Rapeseed Mustard, Bharatpur, during 2002 to 2009. So, Dr. Saab, I request you to come on the dais, and this I will be the co-chair person of this important satellite conference. And reporters will be Dr. Arun Kumar and Dr. H.K. Sharma from DRMR. And there will be some presentations, one by myself and one by Dr. S.R. Bhatt on pre-breeding for genetic enhancement and oilseed brassica. And Dr. S.R. Bhatt is well known to all of you. He has been the principal scientist in NIPB Delhi, and he worked on brassica crop. Renowned entomologist and former Vice Chancellor of University of Horticulture and Forestry, Solan. And he has been the member of our QRT team also recently submitted. QRT has submitted the report, and he has, during this period, he got very good experience of this brassica entomology particularly. So I think all will be benefited by this. And one presentation was supposed to be made by the Dr. Anupam Barik, and on behalf of Anupam Barik, because he was to attend some other meeting today. So yesterday he was there in the main conference, and he was having a lecture on the role of Patanjali in edible oil production and sustainability. So he has given the his entire presentation, and Dr. Ashok Sharma will be presenting this. And there will be 2-3 online presentations, one by Dr. Philorge from France on the integrated management to enhance productivity of rapeseed. And another will be by Dr. Samantha Cook from UK on developing IPM strategies for this policy interventions, market and trade considerations. And one lecture online will be delivered by Dr. G.N. Hazarika, who is the former director research, and he is working presently as a resident consultant in our project, consultancy project, which is which DRMR is giving to the area society and under the World Bank funded project apart. So his presentation will be on technology dissemination and livelihood support at small farms. And there were several presentations, 3-4 presentations by Dr. V.V. Singh, Dr. S.K. Sharma, Dr. R.S. Jat, and Dr. Pankaj Sharma, and Dr. A.K. Sharma from DRMR. So, Dr. Saab, I request you to come on the dais, sir. And for further proceeding, I hand over to Professor Arvind Kumar, sir, to conduct this proceedings of this important satellite conference. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone, and I'm sure that you will be benefited by the great contribution by the Brassica leaders. Many of us, you can see over here today morning. One thing in the beginning, I just want to emphasize about the Brassicas. You know that Brassica, if we want to say have edible oil under the, you can say, Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, which we talk about, that we need to be self-sufficient. This is the crop which has got lot of hopes. And if we see during last few years, rapeseed and mustard have made a significant contribution, not only in terms of area, but productivity also. So this is a unique achievement, and this is because of the technological advances, new varieties, and also the overall effort by the developmental agencies and the policy framework. Particularly the prices of mustard, rapeseed mustard in the country have gone up. The minimum support price have been enhanced. And last year, if we see up to date, the area under the rapeseed and mustard, it's almost much more than the increase in comparison to other crops. It has been all through compared to last year, there has been about 7% increase in the total acreage under rapeseed mustard crops. The area which used to be 9.96 million hectare, now it has come to more than 10.7. So this is the way this crop has made tremendous headway, and will certainly help a lot in mitigating the oilseed, demand in the country, which is ever increasing day by day. So I think you are well aware. I need not to emphasize about the edible oils, its importance in the country, and the role of Brassica oil seeds to meet not only the shortage of edible oils, but quality oil. Lot of emphasis and efforts have also been made to improve the quality, and we have also made headway in that progress. So in every sphere, as far as the research and technology is concerned, we are fortunately in a very sound position now, and we further see that certainly lot more knowledge shall be gathered, which can further be used in improving the production and productivity of rapeseed and mustard. I am sure that many of us will take the advantage through online mode, because it is not possible for each and everyone to spare a few days and come to Hyderabad. But this is a very important occasion when we can discuss in a conference, and that to an international level, where some of our international speakers are also associated online. This is an opportunity where certainly it will be benefiting to all of us. So with these introductory words, and welcome to all of you, and the opportunity given to me by the organizers, I compliment the organizers of International Conference on Vegetable Oils to have organized very timely this important conference, because huge import bill of edible oils. It's ever increasing day by day. So we have to reduce it, and we have to see that when we launched technological mission on oil seeds, in 10 years period, we reached to a level of self-sufficiency to the extent of 50%. 95%. And now we have come below 50%. So that is how we have to fill up the gap, and rapeseed mustard have lot of hope. So with these introductory remarks, I once again welcome you all, particularly the speakers. And I will request you to kindly stick to the timings, because there's a lot of, up to 6 o'clock. So, and then they have some cultural evening also today. So I will request you to be on time. And the first speaker is Dr. P.K. Rai, the Director of ICR, Directorate of Rapeseed Mustard, Bharatpur. I request Dr. Rai to speak on current status and future developments in rapeseed mustard production and nutritional security. Because when we talk about nutritional security, like there is lot of emphasis on fortification. You must have seen either through protein or zinc or iron. And here the fatty acids, how the fatty acid profile can be altered, how we can have a more value addition, more nutrition. So all these aspects, I would request Dr. P.K. Rai to cover in brief. Dr. P.K. Rai.
Thank you, sir. Most respected chairman of the this session, and Dr. Bhatt, Dr. S.C. Sharma, sir, and other colleagues who are sitting here in this hall, and the scientists who are attending this important conference through online mode. In this presentation, I have tried to just throw some lights on the current status of edible oil in the country with rapeseed mustard area, production, productivity. And I also tried to analyze the growth in terms of production area and productivity in different states. And simultaneously, I also tried to just analyze some of these states where these technological interventions are required, some strategic interventions are required. And simultaneously, I have tried to give some overview on the constants which are still present over the last 15, 20 years. Those constants are still continuing with this particular group of crops. And then I have just given some strategic interventions or strategic issues which has to be addressed. And some specific strategies also we try to cover in this. And one, in some few slides in the last of this presentation, I tried to give a just a case study of Assam. Rather, for us, it is a success story. So coming to the presentation, as you all know that this availability of edible oil in the country for consumption and net domestic availability, it is far behind that what we need for the consumption purposes. And almost 14, 15 this million ton of edible oil is being imported every year. And this is in this I have just included this import component also. Here we can say that highest import was during 1819, and gradually in 1920, 20 and 21, this import was reduced. Maybe because of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. And secondly, if you look this figure, then you can find that during this period, this production also increased slightly. So we are, apart from importing the edible oil, we are exporting the seed meals, and 30, this rapeseed mustard share is about this 10 lakh metric ton during this 2021, more than 10 lakh metric ton during 2021 and 21-22, slightly decreased. So coming to the future oilseed production requirements, and then here we can see that the population is expected to grow up to 1.43 billion by 2025, 2040, this 26. And this estimated consumption per person per annum will be 23 kg. And then edible oil requirement, which is at present this per consumption will be 30.4 million ton as per the estimates. And whatever production is coming from the primary sources, it is expected 13.49 million ton production from the all primary sources, 7 edible oil crops, and some secondary sources also, which includes the cotton seed oil, palm oil, and rice bran oil, and other tree-borne oils. And looking to this rapeseed mustard component, this we can say that during this 2018-19, the production was to 9.26 million ton, and against this we expect this production 13.26 million ton. And looking to the last 2 years data, I am very much hopeful that we can cross this this expected production level also. And many times it is talked that the rapeseed mustard is second after the soybean. It is at par to the groundnut, but looking to the oil contribution, edible oil contribution to entire kitty, we are contributing 39% to total kitty if we consider only the 7 edible oil crops and primary and secondary sources, whatever edible oil is coming. So of that, it is 26%. So area production, you know, all these graphs several times you have come across that rapeseed mustard is second after the soybean in area as well as production. So this Professor Arvind Kumar sir has very rightly mentioned that during the last few years, particularly from 2014-15, because of the some policy support and other things, and technological interventions and availability of the high yielding varieties and other technologies, this production has sharply increased. And there was slight decrease in 2019-20 because of the some bad weather, and which caused the some onset of some diseases and all that. But the progress is very much satisfactory as far as production and productivity is concerned, increase, and area is also increasing day by day. And now we are going to cross this 10 million hectare of this area, which was otherwise stagnant for more than 2 decades, around 6 million plus, and minus 2 lakh hectare area. Then this is the state-wise, and here we can see that Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Assam, West Bengal, Haryana, and Jharkhand, these 7 states are having 92% area under the rapeseed mustard cultivation, and they are contributing 92% similarly for the production also. So these 7 states are very, very important for rapeseed mustard production is concerned. And here we have analyzed this data for the last 10 years up to this this 2018-19. Here we can see that in the UP, Rajasthan, and Gujarat, the slight decrease in area was shown, this observed during this period, and which also caused the overall decrease in the area at all India level. But during the last 5 years analysis, this 10 years analysis says that the conditions has fairly improved. And many of the states, and particularly this Jharkhand state, you can see that the production and productivity, this has increased tremendously in this state. So what are the different constants which this crop is facing for more than last 2 decades? This uncertainty of the acreage, because major area is in Rajasthan, and it is dependent upon the monsoon, receding monsoon rain, and whenever there is less rain in the month of September, the area decreases. Complex existing and emerging diseases are another challenge, and fertilizer application is very, very balanced, and farmers are not aware about the use of the plant protection technologies. And then moisture conservation also there, and unavailability of quality improved varieties. Foods are also timely not available, and poor water in the problem which is continuing. And there is insufficient networking in among the various stakeholders, and there is the multiplicities in these technology dissemination programs. State government is doing this, and DSE, and we are also doing them. This best management practices, the farmers, they are not getting this due to this. And value chain, particularly for those areas, northeastern states, where there is no crushing industries, private sector investment is very less, there is the requirement of this value chain demonstrations. So the major strategy which is required is the area expansion, productivity enhancement. During the last 3 days, we are just seeing that the speakers are saying this for the oil seed production, that area expansion should be there and the productivity enhancement. How this could happen? Because this could only happen because of the favorable policies. Enabling policies should be there, and then we have to create the confidence among the farmers about the technology, for the adoption of technology, so that the yield gap which is exists there in the case of this important group of crops, this yield gap can be narrowed. And there is need for the sustainable crop management also to ensure the greater profitability and production productivity of this important crop. As I said in the beginning, I have tried to analyze the this major districts growing this state-wise, 7 states, Rajasthan. Here in the blue figures, these are the districts which is where this we require to increase this this area under this important crop, because productivity is fairly high. And in the red figures, where the area production, this production interventions are required, and this green where the area is high, but this this productivity has to be increased. Likewise, in the other states, I have tried to analyze, and I have taken this maximum highest level of this yield level, the state average, as the highest yield level, and accordingly we have changed the data for different states. So in nutshell, I can say that the present status is like that: high area with high productivity in 12 districts, and there are high area in 30 districts of these 7 states, and there are 45 districts having the high productivity. So where the strategic interventions are required, it is required in 134 districts of these 7 states out of 247 this district which I mentioned. So area expansion is required in 44 districts, and productivity enhancement is required in 18 districts, and area and productivity enhancement is required in 72 districts. So coming to this area expansion, this rice fallow, tapping the rice fallow area is another one of the major issues has been discussed at several platforms, that more about 12 million hectare rice fallow area is there, and which can be tapped for the production of this oil seed and pulses. So expansion in traditional and non-traditional areas, there is always a scope. So as far as rice fallow is concerned, this is available in the state of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Assam, and Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu, some Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. These are the areas where large area is available after the rice crop, and then there are the certain intercropping system which are available and which has been tested and that can be used in the different states based on the requirement. And traditional areas and non-traditional areas are there where we can go for the horizontal expansion of the crop. And the existing yield gap, coming to this yield gap analysis, gap for the rapeseed mustard is around 26%, which ranges from 20 to 22.4% to even 219.4%. And if the yield gap is reduced from 26, which is at present average yield gap, to 10% in the next 10 years, we could harvest additional 1.87 million ton of rapeseed mustard, and which can contribute around 0.65 million ton of edible oil to the national edible oil kitty. And with the adoption of available location specific high yielding varieties, matching production and production technologies, and this yield gap can be bridged substantially. And this is the overview about this the yield gap which is existing in the different states. Here we can say that this yield gap 2, which is average 26.2% yield gap, is there. And if we talk about the yield gap 1, it is 18.8%. So there is the technologies, there are the varieties, and by using those varieties and technologies, location specific varieties and technologies, which can try to bridge this yield gap. And this sustainable crop resource management, mechanization, and then Farm mechanization is another aspect where because in major growing states
Sir,
like
slides are not moving.
Haryana and some Uttar Pradesh, some part of the Uttar Pradesh only mechanization is there. Otherwise, this farm mechanization is lacking in the rapeseed mustard, particularly for the sowing purposes and intercultural operations. And nowadays there are several small equipments are available which can be used. And there is need to define the location specific this biointensive integrated pest management strategies under the under the climate change, because many of the existing this diseases and insect pests, apart from this some emerging diseases are there also this time in entire Ganganagar and nearby areas. We observe this root rot disease, which was otherwise minor disease, and this time it assumed as the epiphytic form there in the local area. So these challenges are there, and we have to devise the mechanism, appropriate mechanism for the management of these. And white fly is another problem coming in a certain part of the country. So demonstration and capacity building by, of the stakeholder by organizing either trainings, field days, Kisan Melas, exhibition. There are so many ways which can be used to for the capacity building, and large scale demonstration is required. And these benefits of all the crop production, crop protection, and improved varieties need to be demonstrated at large scale. And in my opinion, at least 6,000 frontline demonstration and 1,000 cluster frontline demonstrations should be taken up every year, particularly in those areas where this crop is coming in big way. And the capacity building of stakeholder is also required to train the farmers, not only the farmers, but extension personnel about these latest technologies, varieties, and extensive demonstration of information, this dissemination of information this and for this we can use the print media as well as electronic media, and DRMR has taken initiative, and we are broadcasting this radio Shiksha program, and we have also entered into MOU with the Doordarshan, and every fortnightly this this program is being telecasted from several this Doordarshan Kendras. And we have also developed this mobile apps, and there is need to develop more and more this literature as well as some sort of this mobile apps for the dissemination of technologies. And as far as the technological this interventions are concerned, from this research point of view, we need the hybrids varieties of high seed and oil yield potentials, and DRMR through AICRP is engaged in developing the hybrids. And recently some of the hybrids have given the very good result, and they has been promoted from IST to AST, and very soon we are expecting to have the more public sector hybrids and multi-adversities resistant varieties through indicated breeding approaches. And for this, molecular platform is there, and we are trying to use this marker assisted selection and other biotechnological interventions with the traditional breeding program to develop the. And some location specific requirements are there. The seedling stage heat tolerant varieties for particularly central India and southern Rajasthan, Gujarat, and this Chhattisgarh. And for the northeastern states, we require the early maturing and heat tolerant varieties, and we are in the process, and some of the advanced materials are in the pipeline. And we need the nutrient use efficient varieties, particularly the sulfur acquisition efficient varieties, and the varieties with enhanced water productivity, so that with the limited resources, we can harvest the greater yield from this crop. And there is some requirement of some policy, this enabling policies, the infrastructure development, particularly micro irrigation, because in entire northeastern states, there is a problem of this irrigation. And the first irrigation or only one irrigation, this can be assured wherever the irrigation facility is not there. Through the micro irrigation, for this subsidy may be given. And drying and storage facility is also required in those areas. And more and more seed hubs, only 8 seed hubs are working at present in the mustard, and more seed hubs are required. And value chain demonstration is very, very important component, because we have experienced this. Farmers are very much encouraged with this demonstration of value chain, and then discouraging the import of cheap edible oil. This is a policy matter, liberalization of small scale oil processing sectors, and policy for utilization of byproduct in efficient and economic way. Minimum support price, of course, the government is giving this minimum support price every year is been enhanced, and that has resulted in the increased area and production of this important group of crop, and ensuring market interest to realize better prices. This is another issue. Policy intervention. These are the some specific strategies which are required. Increasing the seed replacement rate and varietal replacement, and for this some different activities are required, and the promotion of soil and water conservation techniques, capacity building, and master farmer facilitators. Yeah. So these are the some specific strategies which I try to incorporate, and these are the some small and big equipments which are available for farm mechanization. And we have the varieties, trait specific varieties, as well for the varieties for different stages. These are the number of varieties which are available, developed during last 10 years. So there is no doubt. This I just mentioned in the few slides, that our experience working in Assam, how the strategic planning and targeted efforts can yield. So as a knowledge partner, DRMR is providing technical expertise on the mustard value chain to areas society. And in this World Bank fund, we are also providing support to conduct large scale demonstration, technique training, stakeholder, farmers fair, exposure visits, and all those extension methodology we are following, which is possible there. So initially we operated in 7 districts. Now we are operating in 15 districts, 5 in Upper Assam, 4 in Lower Assam, 2 each in North and Central and Kamrup region. So in total, 15 states, districts of this state we are working. And this is how we have got the success. And this is based on 4,646 crop demonstrations. Here you can say that improved practices has yielded more than 58% of yield increment over the this farmers' practices. This is in the both situation, irrigated and rain-fed conditions. Overall, this PM 28, we have taken 3 Indian mustard variety and 1 this Thoria. So PM 28 was found best, and in the irrigated situation, DRMR 150-35 given the very good result. And under these rain-fed conditions, this PM 28 was found very good. And looking to our efforts in this Assam, the government of Assam and Chief Minister has held a meeting, and they have decided that out of 10 lakh hectare area which is available after rice fallow in the states, 6 lakh hectare is having the irrigation or residual moisture. And out of that, 4 lakh hectare they have decided to brought under the rapeseed mustard cultivation in phase manner. First year 50,000, second year 1.5 lakh, and third year 2 lakh hectare additional area apart from 2.87 lakh hectare area which is available in this state. And rest of the area they have taken for the lentil, and government of Assam has this formulated one Ayog, and under the chairmanship of Dr. H.S. Gupta, former director IRI. So we are working on this, and this is the result. And this slide I have shown only because we are talking at several platforms to capture the rice fallow area, and this and that intervention, and there is need of targeted efforts. State-wise strategic planning is required, how the Assam state is doing, and similar thing can we do in different states also. So there is no reason how that this rapeseed mustard crop can become #1, as in the inaugural session, Dr. Mangalaraya himself said that this coming 1 or 2 years, it is going to become the #1 crop, edible oil crop in the country. And challenges are many, because with less resources, we have to produce more. So we have to do the efforts and to bring the technologies up to the farmers. create the awareness, create the confidence among the farmers to use the scientific technologies for better production. So with this all, thank you all for patience hearing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rai. I think the target which you have mentioned, 8 million hectares, future, but fortunate thing is that already we have surpassed the targets. And this year up-to-date data indicate, last 2 days back information I had got, it has got 9.7 million hectares. So 7 lakh hectares more area this year compared to last year. So I am sure that maybe some states are not able to give the correct area. And my opinion is that this may touch even 10 million hectares this year. So productivity from, less than 1 ton to 1.5 ton and acreage to the extent of 10 million hectare will make a tremendous headway towards meeting the edible oil demand. So thank you, Dr. Rai, for giving the overall picture and the research work being carried out throughout the country and the future strategies. My request to Dr. S.R. Bhatt, who is the next speaker, and he is a renowned scientist, and he has been at National Research Center on Plant Biotechnology in New Delhi, and he will speak on pre-breeding for genetic enhancement of oilseed brassica. So a lot of good work has been done by Dr. Bhatt, and I'm sure that you will be benefited with the presentation of Dr. S.R. Bhatt. Over to Dr. S.R. Bhatt, please.
इसको साइड कर दें इस साइड में इसको साइड में आ जाएगा ना इसे वर्टिकल ठीक है स्लाइड फॉरवर्ड ये है हाँ सर ये नहीं यहाँ से भी ऑपरेट होना है नहीं स्लाइड मूव नहीं हो रहा जी जी अब फिर आएगा हाइट का तो स्लाइड मूव नहीं होता तो करेंगे तो ये मूव नहीं करता वो ये करेंगे तो मूव ही नहीं करता उसको या तो साइड में अगर आ जाऊंगा तो ऐसे कर
पीपीटी ओपन करिए इसको एडिट
Start the PPT. Stop. Minimize the first open. Minimize.
Desktop. Participants. Oh, नहीं यार सर just అది అయిపోయింది నాది శివాబిలో నాకు పనులు क्लोज कर दे
पहले ओपन करो।
अरे वो नहीं
ना उसको छोड़ दो, उसको तो छोड़ दो।
यहाँ पे सर
पहले इसको ओपन करो, एक मिनट, इसको ओपन करो जिनका प्रेजेंटेशन सारा। ठीक है, अब उसमें जाओ शेयर वाले में, इसको मिनिमाइज कर दो या ओपन रहने दो। हाँ, इसको खोलो, इसको शेयर में जाओ, इसको क्लिक करके डबल क्लिक मत करो, एक मिनट में वापस करो। हाँ, स्टॉप कर दो, स्टॉप करो और वापस शेयर करो। अब यहाँ एक मिनट एक करो, फिर यहाँ शेयर करो, इससे सेलेक्ट करके इससे शेयर करो। ठीक है, अब इसको कर दीजिए, यहाँ से स्लाइड्स है
नहीं एक मिनट तो हो जा रहे सर मगर ये बोल रहे थे
ये नहीं हो पाएगा। एक मिनट, ये इसको इतना कर सकते हो आप खाली, इसको सिलेक्शन करके
नहीं ऊपर लगा देंगे
एक मिनट सबसे नीचे इसको साइड में कर दो।
इस साइड में आ
ये
सकता है
ऐसे आ जाता है,
वर्टिकली आ जाएगा
इसको लेके जाओगे ना, इसको
नहीं सर
तो फिर नीचे कर दो। सर मोर में जाना, एक ऑप्शन आता है वर्टिकल में, सर कह रहे हैं ना, सही कह रहे हैं, इसमें देखना कंट्रोल है,
हाइड करे तो
हाइड लाइन से
हाइड करे तो
कुछ हो सकता है लैपटॉप
वो करे तो चिल्ला रहा
छोड़ो, इसको नीचे कर दो बजाय ऊपर के।
कितना ना एडिशन
इसको नीचे कर दो, इसको बजाय ये ऑप्शन
हां तको
चलो।
Respected Chairman Dr. Arvind Kumar, Dr. Rai, Dr. Sharma, Brasika family, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see a lady, but hopefully there is somebody on the online. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Although I am a bit hesitant because in these days the information is, leaping so that retired scientists like us would be quite outdated. So bear with me if I'm outdated. The topic given to me is pre-breeding in Brassica. Before that, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. They are not only given the opportunity to speak and share my experiences, but also given excellent hospitality. I would like to place that on record. Regarding pre-breeding in Brassica, I was just looking at what is pre-breeding defined as in various literature. For example, here, activities designed to identify traits or genes, and basically from unadapted material to a usable material. And another one also says a similar way. But something I missed in this pre-breeding definition is pre-breeding is primarily the goal of pre-breeding versus cultivar breeding are quite different. The goal is to develop novel genetic resources for use by the plant breeders to turn out the varieties. In fact, we talk about genetic resources, but everybody seems to have forgotten the molecular resources, because nowadays molecular resources is playing a major role in breeding, mainstream breeding as well as pre-breeding. It has to occupy that center, and the activities in pre-breeding are much more wider than the conventional breeding, because it starts from germplasm screening, developing lines with novel traits, broadening genetic diversity, gene introgression from other species, linkage map construction, identification of QTLs. We have already seen that how markers are being widely used for erythric acid, glucosinolates, as well as white rust resistance. So molecular markers are an integral part of developing molecular markers is an integral part of pre-breeding. And various populations, tailing populations, magic populations, and also CMS lines, haploid inducer lines, all these come under pre-breeding. So it's a very vast area actually. And as Dr. Rai has already indicated, the requirements of the mainstream breeders, cultivar breeders from pre-breeding are in all areas and encompass everything. It's a wish list. Diversity for heterosis breeding, novel architecture, input use efficiency, you name it, everything is required. And it has to be provided by the plant, so-called pre-breeding, which is a tall order. And
the slides are not moving.
Pre-breeding efforts are not so much celebrated. They go unsung. It's a varietal development which takes the precedence. And it always happens. In fact, I would say pre-breeding is like you have a wheat harvested. From that, you prepare macaroni, pasta, you prepare, rava, suji, maida, and all that is prepared. And a cook comes, a chef comes and prepares and dishes out. So this pre-breeding is more like that, preparing from the raw to a usable intermediate form.
If it is audible, may kindly see why the slides are not moving.
Entire aspect of pre-breeding.
But sir,
I'll be
slides are not moving, sir.
Alien gene introgression from the tertiary.
आवाज सुन रहे सर भट्ट साहब?
सुन रहे हैं यार, ये लोग नहीं सुन रहे.
Breeders are
कुछ है समस्या सर.
And can take care of it. The greatest problem comes in the alien introgressions. And I was just looking at what are the things which have been introgressed from the alien species in Brassica. The most dominant is the CMS. CMS has been introgressed from Ogura and from various sources. And India is playing a major role in
Sir,
this.
हमारी आवाज पहुंच रही है उधर?
In fact, no other country has introgressed restorers and.
हमें तो आ रही है आपकी आवाज, उनको नहीं जा रही शायद.
नहीं दादा कुछ सिस्टम में दादा कुछ सेटिंग कर दिया
सर हम लोगों को ही आ रही है, वहां नहीं जा रही है लग रहा है.
नहीं कुछ लग रहा है.
हमारी जा रही है तो स्लाइड्स को जो चालू करें.
Most of this introgressions.
चक्कर ये कि अपनी आवाज सब उधर नहीं जा रही है. चक्कर वो जो है ना थोड़ा अलग तरह का है ना माहौल.
Like mostly related species group. Only in the case of fruticulosa, Dr. Banga's group has been able
पंकज शर्मा जी फोन भी किया सर.
Sclerotinia as well as for aphid tolerance to some extent. We have been successful in resynthesis. We have the variety released, and that's another area where we have been successful. But we are yet to go a long way to exhaust the available variability in the diploid species. The straightforward scheme of alien introgression, you all know, we start with identifying the donors, making a cross, establishing the hybrid, and do a back cross and maybe isolate the lines with novel features. And
मीटिंग में उनमें से किसी को कॉल किया जाए कि स्लाइड नहीं रन हो रही है.
There are constraints, very well known constraints.
मैंने फोन कर दिया वैसे पंकज शर्मा जी को 2 बार. मैंने
traits.
डॉक्टर विष्णु जी को फोन किया है, वो
There
लोग
are
कह रहे हैं
hybrid.
कर रहे हैं
And in my opinion, the greatest challenge comes in the during the backcross stage. You can produce hybrids, but to track what is being introgressed and to phenotype is the greatest challenge. And this is where we need to really find a way to address the issue. If we do not do that, we might produce hybrids, but we will not go all the way to this. The success, if you see why we have been successful in CMS, is because screening and identification has been very, very efficient. And that is not the case for most of the other traits. Screening, when it becomes challenging, you will not be able to track the introgressions efficiently. So I will be trying to emphasize upon the last part. What are the receipts for successful introgression? In our experience, if you want to take it from the wild species, use a diploid species, preferably as self-compatible. I would recommend Brassica rapa, yellow sarson, as an excellent donor. In fact, if you see, we have recently registered this NRCPB rapa 8 as a good candidate for resynthesis. In fact, I've also made crosses with rapa 8 with 30 odd wild species, and in more than 10 species, you readily get seeds in large numbers, hybrid seeds. So this is an easy way to produce interspecific hybrids using Brassica rapa 8. I think you all have this line, and if anybody is trying to use wide hybrids, use this. You will be, you will not need to do embryo rescue for getting the hybrids. This is a very, very good material which has been identified, which you can call it as an effort of pre-breeding. The most important aspect is do not use wild species as a female parent unless you are looking for CMS, because you will end up with male sterility in the backcross population and you will not be able to introgress. Use the amphidiploid as a male parent to transfer it to the during the backcross progeny. This is another common mistake people do. They use the wild species as the female parent. Avoid using that unless, as I said, if you are looking for CMS. The knowledge of the traits is very important, genetics of the trait. If the trait is dominant, then it would be possible to introgress much more easily. If it is recessive, it will be very, very difficult unless the counterpart in the donor recipient genome in the cultivated species is eliminated. You will not be able to even see the phenotype. This is a very serious issue, and that is why sometimes people have not been able to introgress anything, because you have to have a recessive trait to be introgressed. And in the cultivated species, if it is dominant is there, unless you eliminate, you cannot leave it. So for all this, in my opinion, the only way to go forward is using the genome information for introgression. Some of the questions unanswered are: what should be the size of the backcross population? How to handle the backcross? In the initial generations, there is a lot of wild, and the phenotype is not expressed, especially for quantitative traits. None of the published literature will tell you anything about it. People have used whatever is available. There is no decision as to how much is to be taken. Just illustrate with an example from diplotaxis, where we have attempted molecular-based approach for introgression. See, we had the Aru rapa, amphidiploid. We crossed it to Gentian. I have indicated with the color codes for different genomes with different shades in the same color representing different chromosomes. See, once we have the amphidiploid crossed with the Brassica gentiana, the F1 produces, there is no pointer, if see it produces different gametes. It will pair with different chromosomes of the A or B, depending on the synteny available with the wild species and the cultivated species. And different chromosomes can go into different places because synteny is not going to be uniform between the cultivated and the wild species. So the same chunk would go to different chromosomes. And if you do not know this, you do not know which one to follow. That's the most difficult problem. That's why what I suggest is do the sequencing of the genome of the donor species, which is not very challenging nowadays. And most of this could be done with very limited funds, and do a comparative genome sequencing to find out the synteny so that you know which chromosome is likely to be exchanged. Otherwise, you do not know which piece is going to where. And genotype the BC1 progenies so that you know that in this, if I have 50 progenies, I have genotype. If they contain together all the genomes of the wild species, then you have captured. That's enough. You don't have to have 51 because from that you will be able to get everything subsequently. And after that, you just follow the markers. And that way you will be able to know that you have all the genomes represented in different lines, and you can subsequently do for example, we did the diplotaxis genome sequencing, not the entire, we didn't have that much, and identified some dominant markers. This is another easy strategy if you have less of funds. Identify the dominant markers. Then even if you make a pool of 50 plants, DNA, even if one plant contains it, it will show up as a positive line. And from that one, you can isolate and then only take that. Because in the backcross progeny, what happens is most of the progenies will not contain introgression at all. And if you look for only the phenotype, you may not get any useful traits at all for the rest of the things. That is why, and these dominant markers, say we tested about 100 markers, of which 90 were successful. And we did the bulk genotype and then the individual genotype. To summarize, you can see the different plants. They contain multiple markers. Some of them contain identical markers. For example, B23, B33. They have similar sort of markers. That means they are sister lines because we didn't know beforehand. We just went for backcross. So you might be handling different progenies as independent, but might be containing the same marker. Or there could be others which contain multiple markers. So you know which one to pick if you know the genotype. And the most important advantage of this, say for example, the previous set of markers, they were absolutely undistinguishable from the gentian. But they contained the markers. That means they were introgress lines. We also checked some of the lines which are visibly different. And even there, for example, you can see this G129. They had a glossy leaves. They had one marker common. That means most probably this marker is associated with that trait. So one can identify the trait as well as the association with the markers. To summarize, what are the advantages of this reverse genetic approach? Because in the reverse genetic approach, you can comprehensively and systematically know which chromosome, which piece is introgress. Whereas in the conventional method, nothing is known. You try to do backcross and you will end up with no introgressions at all. Or you have to do every time phenotyping. If it is a difficult character to phenotype, it will be very difficult to follow. You can track the introgressions very easily. Tagging as well as identification of introgression is simultaneous. You don't have to do two different jobs. And phenotyping, one of the examples, one of the things which has never been considered is, supposing I know that this particular plant contains a gene which is related to oil biosynthesis. Then I know that I have to look for oil biosynthesis changes in this plant. Similarly, if I collect all the R gene containing introgression lines, I could be taking only those lines for testing for disease resistance. So this is genome guided phenotyping, because where the traits are difficult to phenotype, that is the approach that one could follow for functional characterization and identification of lines which are carrying the right introgressions. Although it is more demanding technically, but that's the way to go forward if we have to invest on pre-breeding. I think my time is up. I would like to thank my colleagues, Dr. Vajendra Kumar, Rohit Chamola, Anshul Vats, Mahesh Rao, Naveen Singh, and also I would like to acknowledge ICR Emeritus Fellowship given to me, under which some of these work were carried out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt, for giving a very excellent presentation on pre-breeding, which is, prime for genetic enhancement, and particularly in Brassica species, how the wild species you can use it, particularly the seed production is an issue, and in the wild species, and you have showed the way ahead, way forward, how we can, harvest the seeds from these species. That's a really a unique thing. In fact, we also tried, when I was there, these wild species, but many times they did not bear seeds. So that was an issue. But now you have showed the way. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Bhatt, for an excellent presentation. Our next presentation is online by Dr. Etni Pilgore. She is from Secretary GCIRC, Paris, France. And I am very much grateful to Dr. Pilgore to have spared her time for making a presentation online on integrated management to enhance productivity of rapeseed and mustard. So those who are connected online, they can take the advantage of this presentation, which it is going to be, giving the roadmap for making the rapeseed mustard a furthermore economically viable crop, not only in India, but across the globe. So Dr. Etni Pilgore.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. So I will say some words about integrated management to enhance the productivity of rapeseed. It is a very, very wide issue. So I will give only the approach of an agronomist, and especially an integrated approach for rapeseed innovation development, and not only, let us say, technical aspects. So the content will be first, what is productivity? Then we actually insist on the need to define objectives in cropping conditions, in the real cropping conditions of farmers, with strategic objectives, operational and technical objectives, and also to imagine new techniques. Then to manage the cropping system to offer a favorable context to oilseed rape crop. And enhancing productivity is also a matter of training and decision support tools. So we shall see these aspects. And I will finish on some consideration about digital tools for decision support. So it is a way also to integrate, technical research and technical development and development with farmers. So maybe I can put my screen in, yeah, you can see better like that, I think. Productivity is not only yield. It refers to yields in tons per hectare, but also to efficacy. It's to say the result of a crop to meet your expectation. As quantities of seeds, quantities of oil, of proteins, of biomass, with a limited amount of adverse effects on environment and more generally in cropping in a sustainable way. And then it also refers to efficiencies, to say to the quantity of resources mobilized to produce. In fact, improving productivity, it is getting better yields with less impacts on resources and environment, and of course, with good results in terms of goals of production. So the notion of productivity is used, in fact, to assess the technical progress. So it directly refers to agricultural practices and improvement of agricultural practices. And the assessment, of course, must be multi-criteria. So first, define your objectives to manage the crop in your conditions. We could speak about first strategic objectives. I mean, rapeseed has qualities and limits in a changing context. If we consider environmental, energy, food crisis, and policies. For energy crisis and now prices of energy, we have to consider we should consider, if I make a kind of short list or long list, the energy cost of tillage, how to reduce it, the rising cost of fertilizers, which are also depending on energy and or growing resource scarcity. The oxide rate is very demanding in nitrogen fertilizer, which is transform energy, in fact, and also P and K. We should also consider the need to control or decrease greenhouse gas emissions in the coming years. So decrease the CO2 as used as fossil energy. So it refers to fossil tillage, to reduce tillage, to production of nitrogen mineral fertilizer. We should also try to reduce N2O emissions, the incomplete denitrification process. So these will refer to a reduced rate of nitrogen for fertilizer. It's the first way. Nitrogen use efficiency also, and also a quality of soil preparation, since N2O emissions are more important in compacted soil, for example, compacted and with too much humidity. If we consider growing focus on pesticides drawbacks and decreasing innovation in classical pesticides, notably insecticides, the way for us will be to decrease our dependence to insecticides. So this is a full issue. I think probably Samantha could speak about it today, at least. Changing climate, so for seasonal drought and water scarcity, notably at crop settlements, we have to consider some specific agronomic practices. We have to have a look also to seasonal swamping. It may happen in the coming years. High temperatures periods will refer to sensibility at flowering, maturing, so maybe with cultivar earliness or seed ripe types, winter or spring. And then, of course, evolutions of pests, diseases, weed pressures, etc. So, in fact, there is also, as a new element in the context, a rapid evolution of context of knowledge and technologies that we have to take into account. So this is for the general overview of the possible strategic objectives with which the farmers have to deal in their own farms. Some of them take into consideration these objectives and adapt them to their conditions. So we had some years ago in France a group of 6 farmers, for example. It's an example, but it is a good one. And we disseminated many things from this group. So in fact, it was created at the beginning to share thinking and improve practices. So farmers express the wish to be accompanied by agronomists in their approach. In fact, it was a voluntary request from farmers with specific objectives for oilseed rape in their farming systems. And they entered into an agroeconomical approach at first, agro and economy. With strategic goals, ensure farm sustainability, improve productivity, more yields, less operational cost, higher gross margin, classical things, and reduce the dependence to inputs efficacy, notably nitrogen and pesticides, insecticides. So general thing, improve a farm land also, farm soil fertility, let us say, and benefit from ecosystemic services offered by the crops of the cropping systems or cropping practices. So this approach developed with these farmers led to a general strategy to improve soil fertility and structure with limited tillage, use of cover crops. Also to a specific strategy for winter oilseed crop, because in these regions it is winter crops, to secure first crop settlements and to obtain a quickly at fall during autumn, a robust crop more resistant to pest and disease attacks all along its cycle. The agronomists and the group formalized their robust rapeseed approach to structure a crop situation diagnosis, imagine an operational strategy for the next campaigns, and implement and monitor their strategy. So to summarize their thinking about technical and operational objectives, to obtain a robust rapeseed, it needs to obtain dynamic growth at the end of winter. By dynamic and continuous growth, we need vigorous plants to obtain that. For this, we need early emergence, and we need, as a first practice, to optimize crop establishment and crop soil preparation. So this is a way to think a process, in fact, and this is a fact which is important. So we try with agronomists to summarize these things in what we call a robust rapeseed dashboard, which is a tool, in fact, for both diagnosis of the crop during the first year and then management of the crop in the following years. So applied to rapeseed. If we look more in detail at this table, the benefits we expect, in fact, the main strategic objectives are in green. So robust and performing oilseed rape that express its yield potential with few inputs, growth not disturbed, so healthy plants, damaged by autumn pest mitigated. So this first, let us say, strategic objective will set some goals for autumn. So we can deduce from this some key steps. We need early emergence, vigorous plants, dynamic continuous approach, dynamic regrowth at the end of winter to restart in spring season. So for this, we can determine some thresholds concerning, for example, key practices like emergence date, biomass, or results as biomass before winter, oilseed rape biomass at the end of winter, and so on. And also a taproot length before winter, for example, as key steps for a crop. From this, we deduce some conditions of success. For example, controlled plant density, low weight competition, optimal NP nutrition, etc. And we deduce from this some key practices to obtain this condition of success and to reach the threshold for the key steps. And then we speak about very technical things: crop rotation, tillage, sowing dates, control plant density, and so on. So, of course, these principles to be adapted, in fact, I mean, for items in all these boxes and thresholds to each specific situation of the farmers. So this is, for example, the table used as a diagnostic tool for the first campaign of a farmer. So for this one, it was not very successful because the rapeseed was not robust. In fact, the yield was limited. 2.3 tons per hectare. But we determined some progress suggestion to progress, in fact, for the next campaign. For example, I mean, the main point there were possibilities to add nitrogen at sowing to boost the crop, or maybe it's simply to use the improvement with companion cover biomass, especially using legume crops, which will bring some nitrogen in the system. So this is an example for diagnosis. So you will see some boxes as they are in red, bad results, green, good results, and so on, and yellow for medium. So in fact, with this system, with these tools, we enter into a progress loop. Is to say we make observation during the first year, definition of technical objectives to progress, to improve practices. We implement these practices in year N+1 in the next crop, maybe in another field, so it needs maybe some adaptations. And then we adapt the technical objectives to progress again, and we enter these loops during several years like that, and try to develop progress in yields and productivity. So the second point is to imagine also new techniques. We have this developed this companion species in France from several years now. So in France, we have very big fields with normally a single crop species sown in the field. And the initial idea was in fact to grow an association of rapeseed with legume species, which were sensitive to frost and destroyed during winter. In fact, to bring some additional nitrogen during autumn, before fall, to favor spring growth and to decrease acid rate dependency on nitrogen fertilizer. And we implemented associations with 1 to 3 companion species. So veg, lentils, fenugreek, beans, and so on. All these companion crops are supposed to be killed by frost during winter. We observed with these techniques, which were quite successful, some additional effects on the competition to weeds, and then on the control of weeds, and also on insect infestations and damage. And we have also to notice that some organic farmers developed mixed crop with oilseed rape and legume species, which are both harvested. So this is another story, but it's noticeable to observe that they find interest in order to control notably weeds and bring nitrogen. So if we observe on a farmers field network the result of this technique, it was quite successful, because if we consider the yield of rapeseed alone in x-axis and the yield of rapeseed plus companion crop in the vertical axis, we have in fact, we observe that generally speaking, the yield with companion crops is better, a bit better. As an average, we obtain 3.5 tons compared to 3.16. And that there is no difference between rapeseed with companion crops if we fertilize with the optimum calculated nitrogen rate and the optimum nitrogen rate minus 40 units per hectare. So it is really, again, for benefit for nitrogen fertilization, we can reduce it without losing yield. So second consideration is to, well, we observe that there are possibilities to adapt the technical practices on the crop itself with several techniques, with defining a strategic objective for the crop. But also it is important to manage the cropping system to offer a favorable context for this oilseed crop itself. So for this, we try to develop an approach of the cropping systems, especially crop rotations. So here it is an example which is quite complicated because it is a crop rotation, and I think probably 7 years at least, or something like that. So a rather long one with high diversity level of crops and intercrops. And we observe that, in fact, rapeseed comes after durum wheat, which is a crop which is quite well fertilized in fertilizer, in nitrogen fertilizer. And generally speaking, you have remaining nitrogen fertilizer in soils. So the nitrogen availability induces an increase of biomass for rapeseed and very favorable conditions to the autumn growth for rapeseed. So it's important to consider where you put the rapeseed crop in this kind of rotation and how you manage the complete cropping system in order to offer favorable context for this rapeseed crop. And also the rapeseed crop itself will be a favorable preceding crop for maize, for example, or for wheat, if you manage correctly the intercrop period. So we observe that in innovative systems, which are more diversified, insect size can be reduced, yields and margin are generally higher. Also, for example, to control rapeseed with stem weevil and cabbage stem flea beetle damages, insect damages, let us say with specific example, it's important to develop an integrated management, which has to be considered at the level of the crop and the cropping system. The upper side of this slide. So at the level of the crop, there is this robust rapeseed approach, which allows to reduce the damage of insects. But we have also to consider the limitation of pest populations. If we can improve the presence of natural enemies, integrated of insecticides of our biocontrol product use, and also we have to try to avoid that the crop encounters, in fact, the insects population. So play on sowing dates, intercropping, winter oilseed rape with legume crops, croplands, and so on. So we have, a strategy at the scale of a crop, at the scale of the cropping system, and also at the scale of the surrounding landscape. If you consider the surrounding trees, surrounding forest or non-agricultural areas in general, and also soil preparation, soil fertility, and so on. So we have to develop this integrated approach also to offer satisfying conditions to a rapeseed crop itself. So my colleagues, in fact, Céline Robert was concluding that the reduction of pest damage involves the mobilization of different strategies available in combining levels in an appropriate way with an agroecological approach. In detail more. This graph is just to formalize the fact that we have to enter into a multi-criteria assessment process. So I will not detail because my time is passing. Then enhancing productivity is also a matter of training and decision support tools, training and coaching of advisors first, and coaching of farmers by advisors. So this is the general approach, let us say, integrated approach of development with specialized development agronomists, farmers, advisors, and transfer of information, and so on. I will not detail this point, but the important thing is that with this approach, we need several phases, several steps to carry out initial diagnosis, identifications of problems and expectations. Second step, which is conception of the agronomic project with the farmer. Then implementation of the agronomic project with the farmer, with several visits of the advisor with the farmers. And then project assessment and progress loop as indicated before. And we develop, in fact, tools for each of these steps. So these are, let us say, technical tools with well, conception workshops, field trip tests for demonstration, decision support systems, etc., etc. We need also to develop some tools to allow farmers to make their diagnosis and record their practices. So crop follow-up forms or dashboard, as I showed you before. And then also multi-criteria assessment tools, recording observation of practices and so on. So this is, in fact, a set of tools that we try to develop for both farmers and advisors. And we try to develop this set of tools in an integrated way in order to offer a complete management of the crop by farmers with the support of their agronomist advisors. And to adapt the most precisely as possible the cropping practices to their precise conditions in their own fields. Last thing with the development of digital tools for decision support. Well, in fact, we are developing these kind of things. We name it digital rapeseed toward the dynamic monitoring of winter rapeseed at the regional scale. So beginning with the use of satellites images, characterization and qualification of the crop on target fields, in fact, integration of data in a fields management software offered to farmers and advisors, and that feedback to users and new services for farmers and advisors. So the aim of this project is to build a pilot real-time monitoring system for rapeseed crops throughout the growth cycle and using sensor and connected objects in the fields. So this is the general graph of the digital tools we expect to develop in the coming years. So I don't detail it, but it is a complete integrated set of tools. So to finish, I mean the key messages, in fact, that there is no silver bullet for oilseed rape productivity, but there are strategies, approaches of the crop founded on scientific knowledge on the crop itself. So this is the importance of research and translation of research in cropping advice. There are also tools to observe, manage, and progress. And we have to stress the importance of the respective roles of farmers, advisors, and scientists, agronomists to develop this approach. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Etni, for giving a excellent presentation and how to have your integrated approach, management approach for improving the productivity of oilseed rape. We all know that, oilseed rape is a very important crop, and you have showed us how to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, how to reduce delays, how to improve the nitrogen use efficiency by using the technology like legumes as an intercrop, which normally with the onset of winters, they may be completely devastated, and ultimately because of the leguminous nature of these crops, they may be added and adding more nitrogen to the soil. And also the other way, like cover crops, which you have shown, and the use of, the tap plants, tap crops or tap plants to reduce the load of the insects. And you have mentioned that the insecticide should be used at last. So this is good, for a better environment. We should minimize the use of pesticides and use the agronomic approach and the technology for overall management, and how the digital technology can be used to monitor overall monitoring of the status of the crop, and in that case the decision support systems. So I think your message is quite clear, and thank you very much for being with us. Kindly bear with us if there is any questions. We have 3 presentations this morning. If we have any comments or questions, we have Dr. Rai with us. We have Dr. Bhatt with us. We have Dr. Atney with us. If there is any questions or any clarifications, the 3 speakers would be glad to answer. Over to the audience. Anyone online can also ask the question. If not, I think the message is loud and clear, Dr. Atney, and your message is very clear. And I'm sure in India, you are aware that the oilseed brassicas are making a tremendous progress in the country. And this year we have close to 10 million hectare area under rapeseed and mustard, all-time high. And we are exceeding 1.5 tons productivity per hectare. So a tremendous jump in productivity, tremendous jump in area. Over the last year, we have 7% increase in the 7 lakh hectare, 0.7 million hectare increase in the area under rapeseed and mustard. So because of the policies, price incentives and technological advances, the seed replacement rate, which Dr. Rai has mentioned, is very good in these crops. So the recent varieties, latest varieties and technologies have given really headway in improving the productivity and mitigating the oilseed crisis in the India. India has a huge import bill, and to the extent of about 50% more than that of their demand, they are importing the edible oil. So rapeseed mustard has a lot of hopes, and you are having it as a Secretary General at GCIRC. I am sure that you will be certainly taking a note of it, and the presentations made in the context of Indian situations as well as across the globe, and this would certainly benefit the rapeseed mustard growers and the farming community. This really benefiting lot of economic returns by growing the rapeseed mustard in this country, and therefore they are preferring this crop a lot. So thank you, Dr. Etni Pilgore, for being with us, and thank you.
Anyway, many things. Thanks a lot. Many things happens, in fact, in rapeseed innovation and research. And we try with the GCRC newsletter to have a literature review quite regularly. So don't hesitate to subscribe to this letter. It is free. You just go on the GCRC website to subscribe for newsletter, and you will receive it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice meeting. Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good day. So maybe after lunch, we may have brief presentations. Already we are half an hour late. So maybe we may curtail some time out of 1 hour lunch. Maybe we can assemble at 2:15. I think that will be okay. 2:15 is okay? Okay, thank you.